Yeah.
right? So these are my three pillars at this point of time, which I feel play rests on, right? So you need to have a playground, you need to find the right playmates, and you need to together create a playbook rather than take a doctrine given to you by someone else, right?
Awesome.
So
So you need a playground, a place to play. You need playmates, people to play with, and you need a playbook. Some constraints, right? It's funny you say that because and you haven't read Infinite Games. And to be clear, it took me probably 4 years to actually read the book, and I finally did it just because uh, I figured if I'm going to put Infinite Games on a tagline, I should probably read the book. But his biggest thing with Infinite Games is infinite players play with the rule book. You know, uh, as a part of play is establishing what that rule book looks like. And if we're both playing and we're like, hey, this podcast rule book isn't fun anymore, we can we can do a whole podcast where we're talking about blah, 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 right? And maybe we could see what would happen if we tried doing that the whole time, and if anyone would listen or how many people would leave. But as long as we're having fun, we're playing this infinite game. So I love that framing of those three things. Yeah, I feel like the rule book, maybe people might get hung up on. Oh, we're talking about play, and all of a sudden you're talking about setting rules. What's up with that? Why the rule book with playing? Shouldn't it be free?
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, in fact, I have one section that I'm writing in the book which is entirely on rules, right? So, and I've actually made it very serious. So I said, like, these are rules of play, and the first rule is actually there are no rules,
Hmm.
right? So it's kind of like the first rule of Fight Club. You know, you don't talk about Fight Club. So this is kind of like the first rule of play is that there are no rules. But then again, right, the reason we have rules is just to ensure, excuse me, that unlike animals, human beings aren't, I think, like we like to think of the word being human as being compassionate, right? You correlate. So you often hear the phrase be human, right? Or being human means you're being compassionate, you're being kind, and you associate animals with being wild, being cruel. It's a common, association connotation in people's heads. But I think it's actually the other way around. Like I was talking about, like the kittens and cats, if they can play 16 hours a day with each other, wrestling, fighting all day long and not hurt each other at all, they must be doing something right. Because if you put two kids together in a playground or in a mud pit or in a sand pit, eventually they're going to need chaperoning because they start hurting each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? At some point of time. Now, in case we don't want that to happen, which of course we don't want people to get hurt playing, right? Because that's the whole idea of play. That's what separates play from actual events. It's consequences. It's the danger of actual consequences. So, like some rules are really important. So, in a sense, if you were to just use the same paradigm of playgrounds, they have to be challenging, but then at the same time, they have to be safe, right? In terms of playmates, they have to be, they have to be aggressive in the sense, otherwise, they won't bring out the best in you, but then they can't be violent,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's that fine line between aggression and violence. And then in terms of playbook, it has to be something that's explorative and not something that's driven down into you that you have to do this and you should not do that, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you don't allow yourself that curiosity. So while these can be rough guidelines, like I just came up with a bunch of silly rules which I said, like, don't forget to smile, don't be overconfident, don't be in a hurry, don't be careless, don't compare yourself to others, don't beat yourself up, don't beat others up, don't stop playing for the world, don't give excuses, don't gloat or sulk, don't wait for others, right? So there's a whole bunch of silly rules which I put in there. But if you really look at it, the idea is just as simple as being kind to someone else and not really hurting people.
Yeah. So you need the rule book to set a container and boundaries where inside inside those boundaries, people can feel safe and can feel like they're able to play without being hurt.